Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting live from NGC Studios here in South Florida, and I want to thank you so very much for joining me here tonight on my very special 11th year anniversary. And in case you spotted that delay, I was just pausing the live stream on my browser, so that's why I was muted there for a sec. At any rate, thank you once again for joining me on the program. I'm so glad to have you all here. Contact info as usual. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 70_NGC, hashtag Sam's Savages, hashtag Whitfield Report, also at Whitfield Report if you want to follow the podcast. You can follow me on Gab at Sam Whitfield, although I'm never over there. So, but, you know, if that's something you want to use, facebook.com/Whitfield Report, and also thesamwhitfield.com for all your if you want to read my writing. So even though I haven't posted there on in ages. And as always, you can subscribe on iTunes or wherever else you get your podcasts from. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight is a very special show. It is my 11th anniversary of podcasting. Technically, we're a few days early, as the very first episode of my podcast, which wasn't even titled initially, was loaded on March 25th of 2008. So, for those who are regular listeners of the program, I'll try and keep this show relatively short. But as always, I kind of like to recap for the newer listeners how I got started in podcasting. I've told this story a couple of times, but since I'm always getting new listeners, I find that it's always helpful to kind of recap this for some people. Also, by the way, we'll be having Dan Sandini of Daylight Disinfectant joining us via Skype tonight. He'll be coming on in a few minutes to promote his show. And also, we may have some other guests joining us via Skype. I don't know. We could get surprise calls. And then after this show, too, around 10:30 or 11 p.m., I'll be doing a second stream via Google Hangouts. And we may have a few more people jump in there. But anyway, so as I mentioned before, I'll just give a quick overview of how I got started in this whole, podcasting mess. To begin with, from an early age, I was always very interested in history and politics and current events. I don't know why. It was just the subject I was fascinated with in school. And since I couldn't really play sports or do anything like that, I couldn't really play a musical instrument. I just became kind of a nerd, both in the political sense and in the pop culture sense. So I first started listening to podcasts back in 2007, when basically all there were comic book podcasts, like Kevin Smith and a couple other of those types of comic book nerd shows. Also, there was the Adam Carolla show, which, that's been on a long time now. Adam is kind of a libertarian comedian, so I enjoyed his podcast. And also, I was into Rush Limbaugh at a very early age, probably around, going back to my early middle school days. And I remember listening to Rush and thinking, you know, he's he's just saying his opinions and provoking all sorts of people and trolling the left. And if he can do that on the radio, then I might be able to do that thing too. So my first episode I recorded when I was 13, and I just decided to do it for a goof. My first podcast episode was just under 15 minutes long. I hadn't even hit puberty yet. Like, I'm gonna see if I can try and link the first, if I can still find it. I actually played my very first episode on last year's anniversary show, the 10-year anniversary special. And like I said, I hadn't even hit puberty yet, so my voice still sounded like that of a kid, because I literally was a kid. So I did the first podcast kind of as an offshoot, just for myself, and I shared it with a couple people during the 2000 election, and they said, "Dude, this is actually, pretty good." So I started doing more, and eventually it kind of became a thing. And then it really got serious because during the 2008 election, as I said before, I was a political nerd, so I was looking at like voting records and whatnot. And the one thing I noticed was this was around the time Barack Obama was nominated as the Democrat nominee. And I remember looking at his voting record. Keep in mind, I was only 14 at that point. And I noticed that Obama didn't have much political experience on his voting record. And I also noticed that his voting record was inconsistent. I actually brought that up on a paper that I had to write for a civics class. And I remember bringing that up to a couple of my peers in the class. And all I said was, isn't it a little odd that this guy is running for the highest office in the land and he doesn't really have a consistent voting record? And out of nowhere, I started being called a racist. Oh, you just don't want the first, black president. And I hadn't said anything, and I was kind of like, well, no, I want his. So, and I kept being called, being accused of being a racist. Now, keep in mind, I'm in 8th grade. All my friends are in 8th grade. I had no idea that this was the beginning of the social justice warrior culture, but it was. I mean, I didn't really hate Obama. I just asked questions at the time, and because of that, I was called a racist, along with a few other conservative-minded students, and it was just weird. So I started to do a podcast essentially because I knew that there were other students who were, I wouldn't really say conservative, but they were questioning things. And so I just, I just started the podcast kind of on a whim and doing it regularly. My first couple of years, I didn't get an audience much above 20 or, on a good week, I would get 10 to 15 listens. And, back in these days too, what I had to do in terms of doing the technical stuff is I would literally just sit in a room and, with one of those old like call center headsets and record into a program called Audacity, and it would be just me staring at my computer screen, uh, with some recording software, watching the waves go up and down, and then I would upload the files to Google Drive, and then uh, then I can't remember. I think I used FeedBurner to create an RSS feed. But long story short, I found a way to hack to kind of create my own RSS feed, because I sure as hell wasn't going to pay for. I sure as hell wasn't going to pay for I think Libsyn it was at the time. Libsyn was pretty much like the only option for podcast hosting, and I mean I was still a kid. I didn't really have money to burn, so that was fun. So I jerrigged that. Then I think like my second year, like halfway through my second year, that was when I moved on to the wonderful system known as Blog Talk Radio. I say wonderful system in air quote. For those of you who are into podcasting, some of you might remember what Blog Talk Radio was. You would basically call into like this like conference call service with your phone, and the stream quality was, you know, it sounded like you were on a conference call, but like people could actually call in and you could do a show. So I was on there from like 2010 to 2013, uh, and then during which time I interviewed Ben Shapiro, as I'm probably most noted for. And then I moved to Spreaker in 2013. 2013, I graduated high school, moved here to Florida, joined another podcasting network, started NGC Media during that time too, and the show started becoming more pop culture oriented, not just politics. Like I started talking more like movies and pop culture and music and whatnot. So it was also in 2013 when I was still in Denver when I met my good friend Dan Sandini of Daylight Disinfectant, who I'm going to be bringing on here in a few minutes. So, I mean, the podcast has just. I know I'm not even getting my own history of the podcast, right? I've just done so much, but I guess up to now, I guess recapping the last year would be the easiest. This year, in 2018, I celebrated the 10-year anniversary show last year, and then I made the move to YouTube. Started live streaming there and met some people online who I guess I poached an audience from another podcaster who's, well, I don't want to bring him up because I've brought this individual up so much, but long story short, this podcast has kind of had a rebirth of sorts in the last year, so I'm extremely grateful to have all of you on. So that's kind of a brief history. Now I'll be dialing my good friend Dan Sandini of Daylight Disinfectant, and he'll be on to discuss his new mini podcast and YouTube series that he just started producing last week, and he's a good friend of the show, so we'll probably talk politics and Breitbart and all that stuff too. So We're kind of doing this all live, so hang on a second. I'll pull Dan up on Skype. So, uno momento, por favor. Yeah, okay. So, he'll be joining us by audio, too, probably. It's ringing.
Hello, Sam.
Hello there, Dan Sandini. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Good. How are you? It's great that you've had me on the program. Thank you so much.
Oh, glad to have you, sir. It's been a while. I think the last time you were on, we did our memorial show for our white friend Leo Stratton. Cheers to Leo.
Cheers
Um,
to Leo on a Saturday night for sure. Yeah,
so,
a great citizen journalist.
in,
Very, very great guy.
Indeed. So, folks, for those who don't know, Dan is the one who pops up as daylight disinfectant in my comments and on the streams sometimes. So, Dan, I know I've asked you this, a bunch of times. Every time I have you on, we keep growing the audience. So, briefly, kind of, if you don't mind, run down your history because your story is fascinating.
Sure, I'm a Niner. I think I've heard people say that before. That after the election of Barack Obama, that I kind of woke up and I was out in Portland, Oregon, and I just started trying to think about how I could change things. And I decided that I saw somebody looking for someone to do a video. So I got involved in a situation where I ended up going down to do videos with James O'Keefe, who does Project Veritas. James is a great guy at exposing the left in these sort of insider videos. But I kind of got in touch with him for a video that he put out there that you can see on his YouTube channel called I think it has to do with the Bus Project. Yeah, the Bus Project, sort of doorbelling for Democrats type thing out there in Portland. So that's when I first got started. And then I was doing it for like a decade. I got involved in videoing, and I started a channel called Daylight Disinfectant, and you can see it out there. It's still there. I keep all those videos up there. It's at daylightdisinfectant.com, and I'm also at YouTube. But I think they changed my URL. But if you Google all one word or just search all one word on YouTube, it's Daylight Disinfectant. All my videos are still out there. But I definitely got a lot of time getting to know the left during Occupy, only because my friend laughing at liberals kept dragging me down there. And I was retired, and I really wasn't really interested in this, but it just brought my attention to the left. And then some of my videos drew the attention of Andrew Breitbart, and I got put in one of his movies. And you can see me interviewed in Occupy Unmasked because I confronted Michael Moore on some things. And if you think he's big on YouTube, he's huge in person. I mean, he is mammoth. He's probably one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. And I'm not just saying that to be mean or anything like that, or just to degrade him in any way, but he is a big human being. I've really never seen anything like that. Anyway, so you can see that's probably one of my biggest videos on my YouTube channel, which is Disinfectant. And yeah, I'm a regular guest on Jane Carroll's show back in Portland. It's a small radio station, now moved on to podcast, conservative council thing. So you can find me there every once a week. And I restarted. We should talk about social media and what the left is doing to squelch the right on social media. We should talk about that at some point. But
Oh
my first
yeah,
account got pulled down, so I do have a second one out there. It's Daylight Disinfectant 2, TOO. So if you search that, Daylight Disinfectant 0, and where it's space TOO, you'll find me out there tweeting away. So there you go, Sam. And I guess we got introduced through. Did we get introduced through Breitbart, or I can't remember,
we
Sam, how I ended up meeting you?
we got introduced. I think now that it's coming back to me, so my senior of high school, I actually met Hugh Hewitt, um, the lawyer and radio talk show host, who even though he went never Trump during the election, I think he's kind of come around. I still very much respect Hugh Hewitt, as did the late Andrew Breitbart. And that's another thing. Even though I never People always ask because I'm such a big fan of Breitbart if I ever met him. I want to clarify again. I never had the chance to meet Andrew, but it's interesting because I've gotten to meet people like you who did know Andrew and who did get to work with him. So I was through Hugh Hewitt. I was introduced to Tammy Jackson, who I'm not sure if she's still. I haven't seen her on Twitter or on the political scene, but she introduced me to you. Recommended
Okay.
that I get connected with you, and I also saw Occupy Unmasked, and I can't remember whether you followed me on Twitter first. I think maybe you did. Um, I remember watching Occupy Unmasked, which is a great movie, by the way. I think it's out there on iTunes still. And I saw your segment, and I was like, "Hey, I think that guy follows me on Twitter." You and I connected and just started talking, and the rest is history. And I've learned a lot about citizen journalism and filming and what to do and what not to do. You were kind of my first mentor too. Up to that point, I had pretty much taught myself everything that there was to know about citizen journalism just by watching YouTube videos and all that stuff. So very grateful to have you as a mentor. I mean
Well,
that.
thanks. Well, I appreciate that very much. I'm not much of I'm not much of anything to look up to, but Andrew Breitbart certainly was for you people who haven't seen the movie Occupy Mass. I think that's really a great opportunity to learn actually from sort of an erudite level where the left comes from and where those ideas come from and why they are here in the United States and why there's this ongoing battle between people who have their beliefs founded in the Constitution, and then this bunch of left, and they just get wackier and wackier every day. I can't, you can't imagine that they get any more wacky than this Green New Deal. But then, geez, I never thought they would try anything like that. I mean, so it's crazy. So yeah, so I just started doing a new channel, and well, I started doing a new podcast that I stuck out on my old channel called Sandini Sabotage that I stuck out there, where I was talking about Representative, I think it's Omar. Sometimes I say Oman, but I think it's Omar, and
Yeah.
she's from Minnesota. Yeah, and so I just took her as a topic for my first podcast, and I put it out there. And I think you and I have been sort of bouncing around on that out in social media, and I just thought what she had to say was. I lived in Germany for a number of years. For your listeners, probably I didn't mention that in my bio, but I lived in Germany for 8 years, and I speak German pretty well. And so it's kind of cool when you're watching those German war movies. I can actually kind of understand Hitler now. When I first started, I couldn't understand him, but I kind of get the accent now. He's got some sort of thick Bavarian thing going on, but I can kind of understand him now. And it's kind of interesting to. So in any case, I think I have a good appreciation for what socialism is. I've been to Russia before. I've been to St. Petersburg. Been to Moscow. I've met people and been in their homes out there, so I kind of know what communism is and what socialism is from a tactical perspective, I guess you could say. And I think that's why Breitbart recognized that and stuck me in his movie. I guess I have no idea, but they used a lot of my footage, and I was down there. And I try to remember what are the most memorable parts. I would have to say the most memorable part of Occupy was the smell. I was thinking about that the other day. I will never forget the smell of Occupy Portland.
Yeah. Well, also you got assaulted by one of the occupiers too. I seem
Yeah,
to I seem
I
to remember.
Yeah, actually, before that, Sam, I think that's sort of my claim to fame. And actually, on my dailydisinfectant.com, if you click the About page, it'll have a little video there of me on the Glenn Beck show talking about it. And I got to meet Glenn down in studios down there in Texas. And the reason why I got on his program was I got assaulted at a John Kitzhaber rally. And I know a lot of your listeners are listening. It's like, who the hell is John Kitzhaber? He's the ex-corrupt governor of the state of Oregon. And I can honestly say that we'll never get credit for it, but myself and Laughing at Liberals were the first people that were onto that. And I went to one of his first campaign events. I guess he was it must have been 2010, Sam, because I think that was an election year for him to get into a governor's office. And I asked him a question about his girlfriend. And nothing happened then, but 17 minutes later, after sitting in a pew, just quietly, these two thugs come and sit on either side of me. They try and remove me just for filming, and I refuse to go. And one of them punches my camera in the face. Unfortunately, I had someone there with me that had the second camera angle, had a B-roll separate camera angle on me with this guy doing this to me, but put me in the hospital. And so Breitbart recognized that, saw that, and put it up on his channel. That only made me more determined. I mean, you suffer problems from that, but it made me more determined that these people aren't going to get away with. So this squelching of the right has gone on for a long time, and they'll use
Yeah.
any means necessary, Sam. Any means necessary, from violence to that's nothing. To muting us out on the social media platforms, like what do they call it, deboosting on Facebook. What is it, deboosting that James just broke? So that whole thing doesn't surprise me at all. They'll go to violence. I mean, who the hell cares about whether you switch a few bits in a program so that the search algorithms that go through what you have to say on Facebook point out the fact that you might be on the right, and they just degrade your posts and don't let them show anymore. That's kind of a scary environment, but that's nothing to them when they're willing to send someone out to belt you in the face with your camera, which is what happened to me.
Yeah, what's weird is what's weird to me, Dan, is now we're getting you know now now I've been getting people who like Joe Rogan who aren't even like that right wing, but just because they're pro free speech, they're now getting put on like hate speech lists by the SPLC, and that's ridiculous. All because they associate with conservatives. That's annoying. That's annoying to me, but it's also downright scary. That even
How, how,
moderate.
many, how many people follow you on Twitter right now? Do you know? I don't know. I could look
It's
at that.
funny. I can actually look it up. I currently have. Let me look on my profile. Let's see. I uh, I currently I currently have 1,925
Oh,
followers. I'm following almost 4,000, so my follow to follower ratio is way down. But
sure. I paid no attention to the ratio and just tried to build followers on my account because I wasn't a Twitter person. I'm just be honest with you in the audience. It's just like I have to get somebody to look at my stuff. The only people I have are Facebook fans, I guess. So Facebook and YouTube. I have like 4,000 subscribers on YouTube or something like that. So people do respond and comments on my videos. But I was like looking to Twitter for that platform, and I was trying to build a following. I guess what I was trying to do, and I did. I built it up to 5,000. Almost the moment I hit 5,000, they just shut the Twitter account down, and they won't tell me what I said. That's the thing. And I don't have the. I'm retired. I don't have the resources or the wherewithal to sue these people. I just don't. I don't have that much time in the day. You know what I mean? And where would it have to be? It'd have to be some cross country thing from I live in Florida. I make no secret about that. I live in
right.
Florida. Very near you, Sam. What am I going to do? See these people in California? That's not going to happen, right? So I lost my Twitter account, my 5,000 followers, which took me I don't know how long to build it up, but I did. I mean, and I'm owed that, but eventually I just sort of you take your licks and start again. What can you do? There's no court to appeal to. But that's why I think these things, these social media platforms, and you may want to talk about that on a different day or something like that. But I think that should be susceptible to the Sherman antitrust law. I mean, it's similar to Ma Bell saying, "I'm not going to give these people phones because I don't agree with their political beliefs." I mean, and that's really that's a scary thing if you really think about it.
I mean, we can talk a whole bunch about social media censorship. I mean, the one thing that baffles my mind is you know you you have accounts of people on the left who are literally calling for the death of people like you know like for example there were left-wing Twitter accounts calling for the death of those Covington Catholic school kids, and they're still up there. Um, you know,
Yeah,
there
that's
are.
great. That's craziness, but I don't think those people are the worst. I think I would say, worse than them, worse than someone like saying, "Hey, Donald Trump should die" or something like that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's that actually helps our purposes. Okay, when they do stuff like that, but this sort of demonization of the right and slowly—that's what I was pointing out in that video, which your listeners can find out on my YouTube channel, Daily Disinfectant. But I just put it out there because I saw this Omar person saying that Trump, comparing Trump to Obama and saying that Obama is human and Trump is not. I think that's worse than saying that somebody should be assassinated. I think that's worse because what it does is it demonizes a people as being less than human. And that's exactly what the Nazis did in World War II. They had this word Untermenschen, where they talked about the Jews, and they drew them in caricatures, which had nothing to do with what Jews look like, nothing at all. But they made them look like really evil people and this kind of thing. That's precisely what's going on inside the United States right now with the right. And people don't call it out. People are afraid to call it out. What is Nancy Pelosi folded, right, when they tried to condemn her on the floor of the House? I mean, how many people are the Dems going to have left that are fans, right? I was trying to think. If you're a Jew, are you voting Democrat? I can't believe you are. If you are, you're an idiot. You're an idiot.
A lot of them do though. So, I mean, and a lot of the big liberal ones aren't really practicing, either. But that's a whole other enchilada. And then you have the alt right, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the alt right and the far left are kind of the same thing, basically.
Well, if you look at the political spectrum as a donut, I can just say from my practical experience, and I don't know how well this lines up with your alt-right and the alt. I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. It looks like a donut. So it kind of wraps back upon itself. So if you look at May Day, okay, so where are we now? We're getting towards the end of March. But for anybody who wants to start a YouTube channel, by the way, here's a tip. Plan a trip for Portland, Oregon for the first for the 1st of May, okay? And just turn your camera on. I guarantee you're going to get something. But, in that group, you're going to find you're going to find the International Socialist Organization for Portland State University, okay? They teach Trotsky communism, okay? And so you've got those people agreeing with the anarchists, okay? And the anarchists, of course, are at the far, far right. It's like you're saying, the alt-right, there's no government and these sorts of things. So, you get that thing sort of bending back on itself. So, you just get the kind of whack jobs at the end of the magnet, I guess, at both ends of the magnet, as it wraps back upon itself. That's the way I kind of look at that both extremes are not good, And, Sam, we talk about, war like it's in a hypothetical. But you watch some of these war movies, it's crazy. We do not want to have another war. You know what I mean? So, we really need to figure this out with the left and get our country back on track to constitutionalism for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the other big thing I worry about is just censorship from big, tech companies. And you and I have discussed this before. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of the government regulating services like Twitter, but at the same time, I have to agree with Tim Pool. I think it's inevitable. So, in some ways.
You know what you do, Sam? I'm a tech guy. Just thinking about it for 2 seconds. What you do is you would say, okay, Twitter has been abusing its power. That's what you would do under the Sherman Antitrust Act. And you would say, okay, we're going to take Twitter and we're going to make it into a protocol. Okay, it's no longer a program or a platform; it's a protocol. Okay, and anybody can participate in that protocol, and you make the protocol public, and then you have different providers which can provide, various access to that same platform via the protocol, and then they can't censor you anymore. They can run the servers if they want to, but they can't censor you because you can input stuff from any different direction, and they can't shut you down. They don't run the accounts. Okay, so they just provide the bulletin board basically. So they're the bulletin board provider, and now you've got a bunch of people sticking pins and cards and index cards up on the bulletin board. That's the way you have to look at it. And that's what they would do. That's what they did with Ma Bell. It's exactly the same thing they did with Ma Bell. They would do it with, it's just one level of technology higher than that, what's going on. And it's scary. It's very scary to look at the people that they were deboosting and why they were deboosting them. And you look at some of those internal slides that got leaked by Project Veritas. I mean, that's very scary what's going on inside of both those places, Facebook and Twitter. James has videos up on. So,
yeah. Well, what's scary now too is that, I mean, sites like Project Veritas and other outlets like that are now being labeled as fake news. They're also being labeled as hate speech by the SPLC as a way to discredit them. Now, I mean, I guess I just read this yesterday. The one good thing is, I don't know if you heard, but the SPLC, I believe that they're either in the midst of a lawsuit right now or they're going to get sued by Majid Nawar, who's kind of like he's a Muslim, but he speaks out against radical Islam, and the SPLC called him an Islamophobe, which is ironic. So he brought a suit against the SPLC, and I think they settled, which opens up the gate for a lot of conservatives to now sue the SPLC. So.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's a cool idea. Well, I don't know. I'd like to sue Twitter, but I think it has to be I think one of the things that I think has to happen there is you need a group. Okay, you need to offer it as a group. So, similar to cancer patients who sue the tobacco companies. I mean, it's very similar to that is the way that you fix that problem civilly. He'll stop. And it really, you do have to filter for things like pornography, and you do have to have some sort of child content filter on that. Just Americans are only going to be able to accept that, if they can do that, if they can keep their kids away from it. Which Twitter
does not have filters for that. By the way,
oh wow,
I don't. Twitter does not have filters for that kind of thing. So I found that out the hard way. So.
Oh well, talking to. How can I say this? Oh, if you watch some of the investigations on Project Veritas website, you'll see a guy, Mo, who is a guy who's internal to one of these guys who used to watch these posts. And a lot of what he does, theoretically, Sam, according to him, was to look for extreme violence and pornography. Yeah. And illegal pornography, I think, were the things that they were looking for. Mostly. That's what they say. But they also have these conservative. So the way they do it is the software engineers run it through a meta tagging system, and so everything that gets set out there gets meta tagged, and then they search the meta tags for various things. And if you happen to pick up "Don't Tread on Me" inside of your post or something like that, they're more apt to look at your posts. That's basically what's going on inside of them. They flag it. Someone goes and looks at it. And Twitter, for those of you who aren't up on it, I think the New Yorker did a great article on what goes on in one of these sweatshops. They're basically running these $15 an hour sweatshops down in Arizona. I think it's Twitter. That go through all your posts. So you're paying some dude. And there's all kinds of things going on out there, right? I mean, there's people at that place that are smoking marijuana out on the back deck. They're having sex in the stairwells. That's all in the New Yorker. I'm not making that up. Okay, that's happening at this sort of Twitter subsidiary. It's not a subsidiary. It's an outsourced contractor to look at your posts basically and try to find the stuff. That's what's going on inside there. That the working conditions are so bad, and so you can imagine what a great job they're doing on looking at your posts if they're, smoking weed and having sex in the stairwells. Twitter. You can't make this stuff up, Sam. You cannot make this stuff up. You can't make it up.
No, I believe you. That's what's so weird. That is what's so weird is like we're living in like some weird Fahrenheit 451 / idiocracy hybrid right now. So
exactly, or a 404 error. It's sort of like living in a big page not found. I mean, it's like where do they think this stuff up that they can make it that crazy and that whacked out? Like, okay, let's make a set of meta tags that are going to tag everybody's posts. That's going to flag those conservative posts, and then we're going to throw them up in front of people who make $15 an hour in a sweatshop in Arizona, okay, and have them decide whether your post gets deboost or not, and then let it go. It's just crazy what's going on, and I agree with you, Sam, 100%. I do. I hear what you're saying about non-government intervention in the private sector. But one of the big problems of capitalism, and Adam Smith saw that in Wealth of Nations, his original treatise on capitalism. People want to go out and look at it. He saw the problem with monopolies. And that is a big problem with capitalism unbridled.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do. To be clear, and I've actually said this, I do actually agree with kind of putting Twitter and Facebook under the Sherman Antitrust Act, especially since the way Facebook and Twitter advertise themselves, they almost advertise themselves as being public utilities. Yet whenever they get asked about regulation, oh, we're a private company, so like I said, I don't like the idea, but I do kind of agree with you. I think it's necessary, kind of, to have some of that stuff regulated. So
I want my Twitter account back, right? I mean, there's some value there, right? There's work and intellectual value in building it for them, right? Now it's gone. Now they can use all your posts, all your content is theirs, okay? But you can't participate in the conversation anymore. That's basically what they did to me.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, I have several members of my audience who have been banned from Twitter too. I've been suspended twice for fairly innocuous things. I think I think the first time I was banned on Twitter was like back in 2012, and it was something like really innocuous. Like all I tweeted was it was something like, if Obama were a Republican, he would be under impeachment trials for lack of action, on Benghazi. And someone reported that and said that, like, I was like extremist rhetoric because I wanted Obama impeached, which, by the way, at the time I did. But it was really weird. So.
Yeah, I think so. They didn't even identify my post, Sam, on this one. I think they have in the past. They took exception once. I'm trying to remember if it was Facebook or Twitter, but they took exception. I guess I can say it because I better not say it. But it's an abbreviation for Muslim that I used. Okay, that some people find offensive, but people say it all the time. That got me banned from Twitter for, I think, for 30 days.
I'll say it for you. Was it Muzzy?
It was. I did. I let it slip. I think I was even quoting someone, but didn't quote them.
Yeah, I mean,
I was gone for 30 days.
That's. I mean, I've been called. That's my point, though. That's not even. I mean, I get that that's a slur, but that's not even. I mean, I've been called worse.
Me too.
And that's kind of my point is, and that this was the other point that Tim Pool and I know I sent you. I don't know if you had the chance to watch the whole interview, but I know for sure I sent you that clip of Joe Rogan interviewing Tim Pool and Jack Dorsey, and
I did watch some of that. I can't believe that Jack Dorsey actually went in that studio. That's kind of crazy, right? That must have been mega views for Joe Rogan. That's totally legitimized that channel. That's for sure.
Yeah, and look, folks. I mean, I've said this. I know a lot of conservatives have kind of disagreed with me. They say that the first time, Jack went on Joe's show, Joe didn't press him hard enough, and people have brought up the fact, oh well, Joe's a gatekeeper, and I've heard all that stuff, and I don't think Joe is a gatekeeper at all, really. I think Joe is kind of like me in the sense that he'll have anyone on as long as they're reasonable and as long as they're willing to have a civil conversation. And to me, I mean, I don't know. Jack Dorsey, in my opinion, just I think I think Mark Zuckerberg is definitely more sinister, but Jack Dorsey kind of seems like a well-intentioned guy who just doesn't know what the heck he's doing. So, so like he, like multiple times throughout that interview, when Tim Pool was bringing stuff up, Jack was just like, "What? I wasn't aware." Like, I think that lawyer lady he had, she. It's interesting. I think he's kind of unaware of the behemoth that Twitter has become, which is kind of concerning.
I think you're right. I've met Jack Dorsey once, and I have to say that I've never really put my finger on it, Sam, until you said it. There's not a lot going on back there. That he's kind of clueless in a lot of ways.
I mean, he seems kind of like a nice guy, but just
not too on. I think you're right, 100% right. That's really funny because I tried to capture that, the essence of that interview, and that's basically what I got there. He probably is like a one-hit wonder kind of guy that played this one song, which is this Twitter program, when he was in college, and it just took off, and he's ended up where he is now. And he tries to. There's a place right across the way from him there in San Francisco, Foursquare or something like that.
Yeah,
he tries to.
Yeah, he owns like Squarespace and like the Cash App, and those are his. He has like 3 companies now that he's running. So
yeah, but I mean, like how much those have to be growth companies, and they can't be bringing in any income. I don't know. I haven't looked at the balance sheets or anything like that on these companies, so I can't say. But
Twitter's a money loser right now too. I mean, they're especially, and this will tell you. I mean, I'm only 24, but in terms of like what social media platforms, I'm already ancient because I guess now all the hip kids are using like Snapchat, which I have no use for. So.
Snapchat or Instagram, right? Instagram is even more 2019, I guess you could say.
Well, I mean, I do have use for. I've actually been able to promote the podcast somewhat on Instagram, but mostly I just, I guess the one good thing on Instagram is that Babes for Trump became a pretty big hashtag on there during the 2016 election, and yeah, the libs over Instagram did not know what the hell to do with that. So, but
well, yeah, they're not that bright. That's one thing. Don't underestimate them, but they're not that bright, really. When it comes down to it, conservatives are more intelligent. When it comes down to it.
But by the way, to the audience, I haven't done this plug yet, but if you would like to support the show, you can PayPal me at paypal.me/WhitfieldPod. So just had to get that plug in there real quick. And no, I do not have Streamlabs set up yet, but I'll be getting that set up. Also, why are people in the chat talking about weed? I've been talking to Dan here, and everyone in my chat just seemed to go off on a random, tangent about marijuana. So.
Wow. So that's what's going on in the chat room. I'm not watching, so.
I mean, we have a bunch of side conversations too. Also, so. Some people are asking. Yes, I did send him the documentary.
Yes, I watched that. That was awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, you and I have both in this game a long time, longer than
that guy's a nut job. What's his name again? Tell me again.
Owen Benjamin.
Owen Benjamin. He's definitely he's one of the biggest media whores I've ever seen, and he's also kind of a nut job at the same time. So it's like kind of interesting watching that. I don't want to draw his attention to me, but it's sort of like a train wreck. You just have to watch. Isn't that weird watching that podcast? That's the way I feel about it anyway. This guy's like going to implode one of these days.
Well, all of the people in my chat room are mostly like, I don't know if Chuck is in here yet. I know he popped in earlier, but like Chuck, who I know I've introduced you to some of Chuck's videos
Shock. I like
and
him. He's funny.
and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, basically, all of Owen's X Bears have basically become my audience. So you know, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Owen. But yeah, I mean, basically, it was weird because he started off as a pretty decent guy, just playing piano and like talking about uh, you know, constitutional values, and then as soon as some of us started getting suspicious of his opening act, which was covered in the documentary, he decided to defend the guy who stole Valor and kicked us out. So then we started Sam's Savages from that, which is kind of like my I don't know, fan club, so to speak. And yeah, it's funny because he's supposedly this guy is on the right, even though I don't think even though clearly he's not. But yeah, that's mainly
No, do you know where he is, Sam? Do you know where he is?
in outer space.
Yes, out past Triton someplace. I think isn't Triton the moon of Neptune that they want to go look at? I think so.
Well, hey,
Yeah,
well, hang
Triton.
on.
He's at Triton.
Well, hang on, Dan. We never went to the moon either. We never.
Come on. See, that's why I say he's not serious. A lot of times he's not serious. I mean, he can't really, I don't know, maybe people actually seriously believe that crap. But I was on the planet at the time. I mean, there's no way you were faking that in 1969. Not happening. Okay? It's not happening. It didn't exist enough. It's the same thing with the Kennedy, conspiracy theories. I don't believe in any of those either. Just too complicated. Too many people to pay off. Too many. You just can't keep all your lies straight after a while. So it's easier to do it rather than fake it. It would cost you more. It would cost you more to fake it and make it a conspiracy. So if he's down about that, he's really not sane. That's
yeah. Well, I mean, granted, you have not had to stare into the. You have not had to stare into the. I'm not saying anything, against you, but you have not stared into the abyss of this whole bear cult some of us have. I mean, I pretty much introduced you by the time we exposed all of the things. So
absolutely, yeah, I was looking at it in retrospect.
But yeah, I mean, it's I mean
you can watch now. He's in his backyard, right? He's in his backyard playing the piano, and I mean, it's kind of sad to watch. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pay attention to him much anymore. The only reason I'm bringing up is because someone made a reference in the chat, and I just couldn't help myself but bring up the documentary. So
yeah, that was good. It was extremely good. I don't know who made it, but it was excellent. It's as good as some of the stuff you see on Netflix. Sure.
Shout out to a gentleman by the name of Porcelain, who is also on YouTube. Porcelain is actually from Great Britain. I don't know his story, but he's kind of like a documentarian. He does commentary documentaries kind of in that style, but the way he does them, like stylistically, it's kind of like I don't know if you ever saw the movie This Is Spinal Tap, but they're hilarious like that, but they're also pretty accurate. He just put one out on Joe Rogan that's pretty hilarious. So
I'm huge on Spinal Tap, by the way. I've seen it so many times.
Oh yeah, I love Spinal Tap too.
It's Rob Reiner's film, right? I mean, how can you like that movie and still, I don't know. I can't watch it again. I can never watch it again since I know I interact with Rob Reiner on Twitter. He's the worst of the left. He's worse than Michael Moore. I would rather put the video camera in his face than Michael Moore's face. He's a bigger hypocrite. And
yeah, That's sad. I mean, that's how I feel about Robert De Niro. I mean, like I love Goodfellas, but I mean, I De Niro when he went on, Trump calling Trump like a Nazi, or
Yeah.
whatever he said. I mean, that ruined Goodfellas for me as a movie. So
Yeah, you have to look at actors in a way, having done a little bit of acting, in a way, actors are like paint. So it's really like his job is, what is it that they said to Jack Nicholson? They 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 said, how do you act? How do you produce such great characters and stuff like that? He said, I have no fucking idea. I just show up and read the script. And that's exactly what he does. You know what I mean? It's just he's a natural. It's what he does, like people who build houses or build cabinets. You know what I mean? And then it's like hating your cabinet maker because he has these different political views. But I'm with you. I can't, I can't watch these. Yeah, I can never laugh at Jim Carrey ever again. He's just such a sad, pathetic character that I don't know how you let your brain rot away that bad. To be that hateful. Okay, to do some of the things that, what is it that De Niro said in front of all those people? F you, Trump, the
yeah,
president of the United States. Yeah. You know what? F you, De Niro. That's what I said. I'm kind of done with your movies. I think you're a great actor, but I think you've got some mental issues that you really need to address. To be quite
yeah. Well, I
honest.
mean, the guy's also like, he's got to be in his late 70s now, early 80s. So I mean, I
Yeah, medicate him, will you? Anybody who's around him, you should medicate him so that he doesn't go out on TV and say stupid. He'd make himself look stupid, saying hateful things about the president, one of the greatest presidents that we've ever had in the United States.
pro,
It's sad time. Sad time for the United States, where mainstream media can't paint him as anything but Satan or worse. Okay, Hitler, Satan, a Nazi, any of those things are okay for Trump, and he's produced one of the best economies that we've ever had in the United States.
pro,
I just People don't appreciate it. People have no appreciation for what we have for president right now.
probably the greatest president of my lifetime thus far. So
Yeah, I'm a little older than you, so him and Reagan,
well, yeah,
when Reagan got in, yeah. But
obviously,
Reagan did some things that were not very popular amongst conservatives. Just so we get the record straight, there were some things like he eliminated the second home mortgage deduction. That was a huge thing, and a lot of people, it crashed the housing market, but it needed to be kept under control because too many people were using that to. It's basically money laundering, where people would buy properties and just keep them and have the government basically pay the bill for the upkeep on the property. Basically, that's how it worked out. And it really wasn't. I don't know. You can make arguments against the fact, why do we have the first home, deduction? Why do we even have that? But people scream bloody murder if you get rid of it. But why should we subsidize behaviors? That gets into the difference between libertarianism and anarchism and all that. But why should the government be doing that? Why should we be paying part of people's mortgages? I don't own property. I live in an apartment. I don't know about you, Sam, but I don't own a house. I don't
right.
care. We should be subsidizing those people. I mean, watch all the hate show up in your chatter now. Oh yeah, well we should definitely keep the home mortgage deduction. But if it came up, I'd be a Rand Poller there. I'd say, hey, you know what? Why are we doing this? Let's simplify the tax code and get rid of that as well. So anyway.
I will also say one thing that I'm very glad that Trump has done as a college student. I do want to bring this up too. Trump just signed like an executive order, basically, as I understand it, getting rid of those, absurd, safe. Basically, saying that like, conservative students can't be targeted by professors or for their political views on college campuses, which is great. I mean, that's something that conservative college students have had.
He actually mentioned Sam. He mentioned a friend. I don't know if you've ever had Laughing at Liberals on your show before. Have you?
I've never had laughing at liberal I've had you. I've had I've
Leo.
had Leo, but I've never
Yeah,
had.
I don't know. You should definitely have him on your show because Trump actually mentioned him. He gave him the shout out without making it too obvious, but he talked about the cowbell at Portland State University, and that was him that got shouted down. I don't know if you saw that or not, but he mentioned it when he signed the executive order this week. So that's kind of interesting example of citizen journalism that caught his attention. That video caught his attention. It's like nobody should be shouted down, and it's not. Maybe some of your listeners don't understand that. It took me a while to understand that too. That if you stand in front of me and scream in my face, you're denying me my First Amendment right. There has to be a balance there between in a conversation. And if you just stand there and use an amplification device to make me not heard, you have violated my most fundamental right, as according to founding fathers and Bill of Rights. Number one, First
Yeah,
Amendment.
the I mean the other thing, and this is a lot more egregious, but I mean I had someone during the 2016 election try and unfortunately I didn't get it on film because I was walking or in my case rolling to class, but I mean someone tried to snatch my MAGA hat off the top of my head. Now I swatted it. Oh, I swatted their hand away, and they didn't try anything because I don't know how I have to say it, but I mean let's be honest. Their foot was not going to compete very well against a 1,000 pound motorized wheelchair if they tried it again. But just the fact that they tried to that
What
they
an asshole, right? I mean, I wish I had a second. See, that's why I never go anywhere alone. I mean, we used to always say that, but we do it all the time. But never go anywhere alone and always have a B angle on it because, the optics of knocking a MAGA hat off a guy in a wheelchair, damn, I wish I had that video. That's a
I
great video.
I
Right
would.
there.
I wish I had been rolling, but see that's the other thing. I wish I had been rolling my phone, but see that's the other thing. Like I don't want to have to. That's the other thing with some of these incidents is you always wish you had it on film, but some of these things just happen. So,
What'd be
um,
interesting is to set up your wheelchair shit up. Set up your wheelchair, Sam, with a GoPro tied into the battery on your wheelchair that overwrites the card, just constantly while you're out there. And just wear your MAGA hat around and get out of downtown Sarasota. I hope you don't care I say where you are, but get out there. You'll get people knocking your hat off all the time. Just tie it to a fishing line, right? Get like, what is it? What's really strong? I don't know. I'm a freshwater fisherman from New England, so a 10-pound test is the highest thing we ever tied. But you probably get like 50-pound test that's not too visible, right? Some good alligator clamps. Clamp that, clamp that. I can't even say it. Clamp that bitch right onto your chair and roll on that GoPro 24/7. Go live. Go downtown and watch you get knocked off. How many times you get it knocked off would be incredible.
yeah, there's this guy named Carl. I don't know his YouTube channel, but he I mean, he just goes by Carl on YouTube. I know that, and I don't really know if he's even a conservative, but he'll just go on kind of the street and do like these pranks in New York City and just like see how people react. It's pretty funny to see how people just react to his GoPro thing. So.
Yeah, I'd like to walk around in downtown Portland State University. Another great opportunity for people. Just walk around outside.
Was
Just
it
make sure your camera's in the open.
wasn't Portland State? I seem to remember. I seem to remember Portland State University. I think you were already down here by the time this happened. But from what I remember, Portland State was that uh, where that chick got caught filming amateur porn in the library, and she got suspended. It was like a major national news story or something, right?
I missed that. That went right by me. So I missed that story. It was somebody in the library down at PSU. That didn't surprise me. PSU is
Yeah.
filled with some of the biggest pervs in the world. There you go. Happy for me. I'm sure a lot of those people. Well, I mean, you don't have to look at the governor. Okay, Neil Goldschmidt of Oregon. You probably don't even know this story, Sam, but I'll tell you really quick. Neil Goldschmidt was having affairs. He was having the state police bring 16-year-old girls to his room to have sex with them. Okay, that's how the state police are your bodyguards if you're the governor of Oregon. And that's what he was doing. He got caught, and he got caught by the left-wing media in Portland. So the only reason why I got exposed, Willamette Week did an expose on it. I'm trying to think of the guy's name, but he actually got a Pulitzer for it. Okay, and Neil Goldschmidt went out of office. So I mean, that just gives you one idea. You know, the other guys. I was starting the next episode of Sandini Sabotage is going to be the top 10 whack job things to ever come out of Portland, Oregon. That's not a whack job thing. That's just a disgusting, gross politician thing. I'm going to do another list at some point for them. But, I mean, he's just the beginning. You know, you've got Sam Adams and you know, all these people. It's just, you know, I don't mind what you do in your own bedroom, but make sure it's legal, okay?
Yeah.
And don't do it on government time. I don't care, okay? You can do whatever you want to do, okay? But you know, when you're the governor of the state of Oregon and you're having the state police bring 16-year-old girls to your house, that's just, you know, it's out of control. And that guy never went to prison for it, by the way. Goldschmidt never went to prison. He never got convicted of anything. Crazy, but it's well known that's what was going on.
Yeah, it's stories like that that make you lose faith in the government completely almost too. So.
Well, there's the upside of that too, Sam. I've been encouraging people to run for mayor of Portland because I can't find a single good candidate that's out there. That the guy who has it now, give me a second to think of his name, doesn't want it. Okay, hates it, hates the job, makes no secret about it. He's not going to run again. I don't know who's going to be the next mayor of Portland, but it's wide open, folks. Anybody who wants to try it, it's wide open right now.
Yeah, I mean, if we have any listeners in Portland, which I think we do, we might have like all of two. So if the two people who are listening to this podcast later on in Portland, feel free to run for mayor of Portland. If you want the job, I don't, and I mean Dan moved here to Florida too, so that.
Yep, chime in on chat if you want to be the mayor of Portland. I would say we'll make a candidate out of you. We'll do like AOC. We should run a contest like AOC, right? We can have people write in their best candidates to be the mayor of Portland, and we can run the best one.
We should just run some hot MAGA chick to although hang on a sec, are there any hot MAGA chicks in Portland? I don't think so.
I don't think there are any hot MAGA chicks listening to your show, but if there are, chime in on chat.
No, there are who listen to the audio podcast. So I know that, but yeah, let's it would be great though if we could get like a MAGA chick to run theoretically and have it be like the AOC type of thing. So. But
the equivalent of AOC for Portland mayor. I like that.
Except obviously she would be a lot smarter than AOC because AOC couldn't even name the branches of government correctly.
What if we did like a Manchurian candidate, Sam? We got somebody set up who doesn't have a high political profile right now, and just have them set up with all these whack job ideas, Green New Deal on steroids. We'll call it Green New Deal cubed or something like that, okay? And, it's where you're forced to collect all the rainwater on your roof or something ridiculous like that, right? Just the most whack job ideas you could possibly come up with. We'll come up with a platform, Green New Deal cubed, and run it on we'll run it for Portland mayor. And whoever writes into your show, you get to be the Manchurian candidate.
Well, Jacob Downey in the chat. Jacob, I know you're not from Portland, but he's offering to run for Portland's mayor.
Portland mayor.
So, we have a couple people from Canada who who are in the
Who want to run
chat.
for Portland mayor? That's incredible. We should have people write in why. What are their bios? I mean, what qualifications do you have? Because I don't think you have to be I would bet that if you go back through the city laws, that you don't have to be a resident of the city to run for mayor. I'll bet you anything. Because I know that the candidate for the third, the congressman from the third congressional district, Blumenauer in Oregon, has considered running. And I think that he's given up his address inside the city of Portland. So I'm going to guess that you don't need to, that it's not on the books. But they figure that nobody would ever win, unless you were a Portland resident, that you're not going to win. But I would be surprised. Portland people do weird shit. They do very weird shit. And, if you come in there from the outside, I'm telling you, I was joking about it when I first started thinking about this. But it is, and it may not be one of your listeners, but the mayor of Portland right now, nobody wants that job. Absolutely no one wants it. It's a disaster from all perspectives, from the left, from the right, from the middle. He's pleased no one and wants out of the job. He's not going to run for a second term. And that's coming up next year, 2020 Mayor Portland. So who could it be?
I have no idea. So let's see. I have no idea. But anyway, well, Dan, is there anything you want to plug real
Yes,
quick?
I do. I want folks to go out to projectveritas.com, especially if you're an insider inside some sort of company, and step forward. I think where James has put that stuff is projectveritas.com/be brave. Okay, and I think James is changing how his approach to stories, and he's looking for insiders that can give him, the inside scoop. Somebody wants to drop a dime on something that's going on in terms of corruption or anything inside of a government agency or inside of Twitter, inside of a social media platform. Wants to drop a dime on someone, I would plug James's platform. I would say projectveritas.com. I think it's /be brave. I think that's what it is, or something like that. So, but you can just go to projectveritas.com. You'll find it. James's new thing for people to volunteer information and tips on what's going on. So,
yeah, James is really doing God's work. I feel so. He really is. So.
And if I forget to say it, Sam, thank you for having me on the program today. You're a wonderful host, and I love talking to you. And I'll talk to you anytime you want.
Oh, thanks for coming on, Dan. And yeah, I mean, anytime you want me to come on your podcast, I know that your format is a little different, but you've taught me a lot about citizen journalism. So if you ever need help with the whole podcasting thing, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to help you out and plug your show, which again is Sandini's.
Come on, Sandini Sabotage. If you can't come up with it in 2 seconds, I got to rename it.
Sandini Sabotage. Well,
I was never a marketing guy, Sam.
I was never a marketing guy too. I think when I first named this podcast, I initially named it the Whitfield Analysis because I would analyze news and politics. And then people got tired of typing that URL in a lot. Well, and then during the 2016 election, I changed the name to the Whitfield Report because people started trolling me on Twitter and taking the lysis part of analysis off of that. So so then you came up with the Whitfield something. We'll just call it since we talked to Owen, it was they basically called it the sodomy report or something or the other a word for that. But anyway, so I changed it to the Whitfield Report and have been, doing that since. But so rebranding works sometimes too. But I think Sandini Sabotage is a great name. So.
Well, thank you for that, Sam. You're very, very kind, and I like the Whitfield Report. I like it.
So
I think it's very authoritative. And for all your listeners that are out there, what are your channels? Put them out there, and everybody keep doing what you're doing because it's really important. The middle right now is getting squashed out. The middle is getting squashed out. The big media channels can't be beat. That's what I would. You can't. It's like people like Crowder when they shut his channel down, you'll sue them. You can't do it. But I just don't have the resources. So it's that middle guy. So who's the next Steven Crowder out there? Who's the next Mark Dice?
We desperately need we desperately actually need. I've kind of been lukewarm on. I've kind of been lukewarm on Crowder recently. I used to really be a big fan, and then since he kind of hitched his wagon to Owen, I haven't really been a big fan since. And that's not the only reason. I'm not. Glenn Beck was kind of Breitbart's adversary for a while. I know that too. So.
Well, they were allies for many years, and then they were adversaries for a very short period of time. And unfortunately, before the argument got settled, Breitbart left the building. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, well, Dan, once again, I want to thank you for coming on, and let me know if you ever want to come on again. I'm happy to have you, and like I said, I'm happy to do your pod as well. So.
Thanks very much, Sam, and to all your listeners. Check me out, dailydisinfectant.com. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Real quick too. I know that you're not rolling on Twitter, but I guess. Would people just come on your channel, or how would they get in contact with you?
I use some random email, but if you want to hit me on Twitter, it's Daily Disinfectant space TOO is the name that I used. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So contact you. So
there.
Yeah. All right.
I can't even shut down the old channel, Sam. So there you go. Can't even shut it down. That's how well they've locked me out of my account.
Yeah, there you go.
That should not be. Because now your presence is drawn. If somebody wants to friend you or something, they're going to find all that old posts. And so until you build up bigger than that, Anyway, but I'll let you go. Thanks a lot, Sam. I appreciate it very much. Hey, say hi to your mom for me too.
I will. I'll say hi. We ought to have you. We ought to have you back down here too. So.
I'm coming.
All right.
Like a bad penny, I always churn up.
Well, or like a lucky penny in our case. So you've been a great friend, and I really appreciate you. So.
All right. Well, to all your listeners, keep the ice buckets full, and always use top shelf gin. I drink Hendrick.
All right. Good to know.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All
Good
right.
night.
All right. Bye, Dan. Alrighty, folks, what have we got going on? I'm going to, if anyone is in the chat right now, yeah, I know Owen's live. I don't listen. It's my night though. I don't want to spend time watching Owen's stream, especially since he's not going to confront me or debate me. Even though I've offered, he's not going to. But anyway, yeah. If any of the savages are around, what I want to do is I'm going to do a part 2 of the show tonight, and I'm gonna open it to Google Hangout. So hopefully some people can jump in. Like I said. If any of you guys are feeling generous tonight, you can donate to the show at paypal.me/WhitfieldPod. The link to that is in the description. I might also, let's see. No, Noracle, you're banned on the... Oh, you're not banned on my chat. You're banned on... Well, yeah. Everyone is banned on Owen's chat. So, Mr. Free Speech Warrior, right? But anyway, folks, thanks for watching part 1. I'll be right back with part 2. If any one of the savages wants to jump in, I'll post the link in the Discord and all the usual places, and you guys can hop on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be right back with part 2 of the 11-year anniversary special. Thank you for watching part 1 so much. Good night. God bless. God save this great nation, and we'll be right back. So, let's see. Oh, real quick before I end the stream, Jacob, do I need to? Can someone somehow get Jacob a link to the Whitfield Report Discord? That would be great. All right, folks. We'll be back.